This is Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Telecom Reseller, and this is a special podcast for the Cloud Communications Alliance. And today I'm with Haydn Faltyn, who's the CEO of BroadSource. Haydn, thank you for joining me today.
Good afternoon, Doug. Thanks for having me.
So first of all, congratulations on becoming a member of the Cloud Communications Alliance, the CCA. And this is, as I mentioned just now, a podcast to introduce everybody to your company. What is BroadSource?
Good question. Thank you, Doug. And we're really excited to be joining the CCA. I think we have been talking to the guys for a while now, and this feels like a fantastic opportunity to listen and learn a whole lot more to help BroadSource, learn and grow and zig and zag in this cloud UC market. So a little bit about BroadSource. We have had the opportunity of specialising in cloud unified communications technologies since about 2002, when we were lucky enough to introduce the BroadSoft platform to a company here in Australia called Telstra. We were lucky enough to be able to install it, configure it, and look after that platform on behalf of Telstra for a number of years. And what it's meant is that we now have a capability that back in 2013, we decided to take global. So BroadSource now represents a global product development and systems integration company that is helping a raft of global service providers realise the cloud UC vision of bringing software-based, IP telephony-based collaboration software to their customer base. So for us, it's about a 17-year journey, specialising in cloud unified communications core technologies inside our customers' networks. And for us, there's a specialisation around adding value to those cloud UC platforms through our own products and through our professional services teams. So that's probably the best way to summarise BroadSource in a few paragraphs.
So let's talk a little bit more about those products and services. How would you describe sort of your flagship or key products and services?
For sure, thanks. So our core flagship product is called EMU. It's wonderfully colloquially Australian. The emu is an Australian flightless bird, a little bit like the ostrich, and it's Australia's fastest bird. And it actually is an acronym for something that we think is pretty important in the cloud unified communication space right now. And that is that these platforms that major global service providers are bringing to their enterprise customer base, they're becoming significantly large. They're managing hundreds of thousands of subscribers, maybe even millions of subscribers on these software-based communications platforms. And EMU represents a piece of technology that allows them to manage that massive subscriber base a whole lot better. So actually EMU stands for extraction, manipulation, and update. And it's a platform that has a raft of capabilities that allows service providers to better manage, to better migrate, and to have customers better consume the cloud unified communication service. So think of EMU as a piece of technology that sits alongside the cloud unified communications platforms, and it allows service providers around the world to better extract, to manipulate and update all of the data that's on those platforms that they need to manage subscribers across their customer base.
And what then constitute your principal customer community? Who do you sell to?
Yeah. So there are about 90 customers of ours around the world that we classify as either Tier 1, Tier 2 or Tier 3 service providers, anywhere from the large service providers in Europe like Vodafone and Cincinnati Bell in North America, all the way down to smaller service providers in even third world countries like our Digicel customers who runs many of these cloud unified communication services across the Pacific Islands even. So we have customers that are Tier 1 service providers in Europe. We have Tier 2 service providers in the UK, and we have even Tier 3 service providers in the Pacific Islands across the northern part of Australia. So Fiji, Vanuatu, Tonga and Samoa and Papua New Guinea, all who have ambitions to offer unified communication services to their customer base within their geography. And we find that BroadSource is relevant from both our products and services perspectives into each of those tiers of the global service provider community.
So Haydn, how do these services and products that you're mentioning in some of the regions you're serving help companies that are primarily located in North America?
Yeah, fantastic question. Thank you. So we have an office in Seattle that is responsible for helping our North American and even Central American customers at the moment. And probably the best way to describe that is to talk about some customer examples. We have a specialization in the Cisco BroadWorks platform. And that platform has been well consumed by many service providers through North America. So AT&T and Verizon and Cincinnati Bell and Vonage and the rest of those guys are all consumers of this core cloud unified communications platform. And the way we're helping North American customers at the moment is through better management of that platform and the estate that they are now operating. And maybe it is a service provider who has 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of these platforms across their environment. Maybe they've been acquiring other service providers and now they have disparate platforms that maybe need to be consolidated, maybe need to be simplified. And so customers are choosing us to deploy our EMU platform to better maybe do load balancing of subscribers across the estates as they do acquisitions of service providers across the regions. Maybe it's to better configure the platforms to simplify the way in which they're updating large volumes of subscriber data across the network. Maybe it's using us to help simplify the provisioning processes that were once upon a time legacy that need to be updated into new architectures. So our North American customers are choosing to purchase our software to be deployed into their environments to simplify their lives, to simplify their world, because their world's becoming more complex in managing these complicated cloud unified communications platforms.
Now, does that also hold true for companies located in the EU and UK?
Yeah, definitely. So slightly different deployment model, but for sure, we have customers like Vodafone who have fantastic ambitions to drive cloud unified communications into the SMB and mid-market in Germany, for example. And it's just very simple things like how do they respond to a customer inquiry to merge two government departments together on the PBX, in effect, in the cloud. So our products are there to make people like Vodafone be able to respond better and faster to customer inquiry about something like, hey, I've sold my company to this other company. Can you please merge these two PBXs together? Now, that's a very, very complicated task in a cloud unified communications construct. And our job has been through our technology to simplify those tasks down so that this is a lot better operational capability for someone like a Vodafone in Europe to be able to respond to their customer base through a more adaptable, more configurable, more customer-friendly cloud unified communications platform.
So Haydn, let's connect what BroadSource does to everyday unified communications use and, if you will, the real world. I think throughout the world, and especially in many of the developed countries, we have an enormous amount of legacy communications equipment, even predating the term UC, in use, installed, still working, and used by viable organizations, city governments, county governments, large companies, and so on, that may not even have on the radar a transition plan. So I'm trying to find out how all that sort of fits in with what you do, and also maybe what the CCA community should know about this sort of large transition from on-premise to cloud, this sort of next chapter where we're dealing with legacy firms.
Yeah, great observation, Doug. I think for us, that is a core principle to the reason for BroadSource, and that is that there is a significant opportunity for the cloud unified communications ecosystem to capitalize on that transition to cloud from the premises, and that you're right, that there is going to be a legitimate reason for many businesses, whether they be hospitals, schools, county environments, to persist with the concept of traditional telephony with potentially UC overlay, but that is going to be persisting as a core utility within their environments for many years to come. So a core principle of BroadSource and the way I ask my product development team to continue to think is what are we going to do to help our cloud unified communications customers in that transition program? There's significant opportunity for them to move the customer base from premise to cloud, and we know that the economic models are going to be there to do that effectively, and we know that technically speaking the destination platforms in cloud unified communications can cope with the functional capability, but the core opportunity for a company like BroadSource is to capitalize on the transition moment. And EMU represents for us that core platform, the technology, the techniques, the troubles, the complexity of that transition program. And we're already underway with one of our partners in Cisco in transitioning, for example, services from legacy PBX environments to their new WebEx calling platform. And for us, that's a technical job. It's a technical process and procedure that for us represents probably, that 17 years of experience of working on platforms, understanding the reality of what needs to happen around all the moving parts, and for us to codify that and to turn it into something that you don't need the most experienced telecoms engineer, but you can use a provisioning team to respond to the customer requirement of a transition from premise to cloud. So that's the number one principle behind that transition. We don't think the job's finished there, though. We think the job then is to make sure that those customers, when they are consuming a cloud UC platform, are actually consuming it and consuming it every day. And we know that these platforms have a raft of capabilities, an array of features that they've inherited from the premise world, but also have expanded upon in terms of collaboration. And our job as BroadSource is to also use our EMU platform to drive the daily consumption of these features that we know can bring productivity enhancements to the workforce, that can connect the workforce, that can increase the collaboration between team members in and out of the organisation. And so we've developed some very, very interesting technology that in the hand of the end user becomes a really habitual experience to consume all of these cloud unified communications features that they're actually already paying for, but not, we don't believe, consuming to the levels that we'd expect is good for a cloud unified communications service provider.
So, one of the things that I think is true as an issue here in unified communications is we have a lot of people selling many interesting products and many services. So a lot of what's trickling down to the actual consumer, the actual end user at a company using these products is there's a lot of features available. But we hear that sometimes people aren't even aware of the features, or they're not using them, or they're not really making them a part of their daily life, and that makes those services less sticky, if you will. So I'm wondering what you guys are doing to combat that issue.
Yeah, another good observation. Thanks, Doug. We truly believe that not only is there an opportunity to help global unified communication service providers transition a customer base to their environments, but also to help drive the strategies around the consumption of those services that they are subsequently selling to those same customers. And so we think there's a real alignment of the planets that's occurred recently, and that is that we can capitalise on a number of key strategic developments that we have developed some technology around that we're offering now to our customers, and that is the concept of adaptive unified communications. So that's the concept of the cloud platform automatically adapting to what the actual end user is doing at that time. So creating some contextual awareness. We think it's a real problem for service providers to ask their customer base to interact with their platform, to update features, to modify their settings, to interact with the platform. And they might do that once or twice when it's new, and they might do that every now and again to literally log into the platform and modify the way that service is behaving for them. Because you're right, the feature list is long, and the opportunities to capitalize on the features and what that could do for a person, what it could do for their productivity and simplification of their business life is the promise that every single unified comms service provider is promising today. So here's our strategy, and that is to make it passive and to connect the person to the cloud. And the way we've chosen to do that is via their mobile phone. And so our EMI platform runs as an assistant in background on a mobile phone to automatically create contextual awareness so that the cloud can adapt. And as you come into the office, and as you leave the office, and as you get home, and as you walk into the kitchen or walk into your home office study, as you drive into the car park, as you enter a boardroom, all of these things should mean something to you as the end user. You're changing your mode of operation in the day. You're in and out of meetings. Why isn't the cloud responding to that? Why isn't the cloud adapting its behavior? And so we have a strategy to deploy adaptive unified communications into our customer base to bring these services to life, to bring all the wonderful productivity and collaboration and connectedness that unified comms promises, but bring that to the end user in a really meaningful, passive, but ultimately what we think is important for the unified communication service provider is they become habitual. So that, for example, every time you walk into a meeting room and you're about to start your meeting, how about you flip your phone face down, which many of us do just as a courtesy, but it should mean something. It should mean, for example, do not disturb. Do not disturb from a cloud perspective, not do not disturb on the phone to turn the ringer off. You know, Apple and Google are doing that too. And it's great to see those TV commercials come out where they show you flipping your phone face down to turn the ringer off. But for us, we want to help the globe. We want to help the network. We want to help the cloud. And our strategy is to build technology. It's our EMU platform. And that when you flip your phone face down, it means something for the cloud. And that's our concept and strategy around creating very simple, very habitual experiences that are driving the consumption of cloud unified communications. And in doing so, we think that's beneficial to the service provider and therefore obviously beneficial to us.
Now, I also understand your company offers professional services.
Yeah, we do. So we started actually as a professional services organisation and built these cloud platforms, designed them, documented them, installed them, and handed them over to service providers of all shapes and sizes around the world over the years. It led to us finding issues and opportunities to develop product, but we started as a professional services organisation, and we are still doing that today. So, for example, we are still literally building from scratch cloud unified comms platforms for Tier 1, Tier 2, and even Tier 3 service providers who choose to have our expertise literally design the platforms into their data center environments and work with their teams to accept those platforms into their networks. What it means for us is we get a real close association to those customers. We understand their issues, we understand the challenges, and that has a direct influence over our product development strategy as well. So we think there's a really symbiotic relationship between our product development activities on one side of the business and our professional services team on the other, who are creating awareness, creating a list of issues to be solved, and that can be solved not only with horsepower through our engineering expertise and our consultative team, but we can also talk to our dev guys about how do we maybe codify that as well. So we think there's a really important continuation of our professional services activities with leading service providers as well.
So, we've been talking about your services to several different markets. What about the end user? And I'm talking about here the enterprise end user, probably a company with a contact or call center.
Yeah. Call centers is a really interesting thing for us. It's obviously an adjunct to cloud unified communications, and we can see now that service providers and vendors and technology players are also trying to transform contact center architectures and technology to cloud as well. So cloud CC. So happens that we've been lucky enough to have helped major service providers like Telstra implement their call center strategies over the decades. And what we're seeing more recently is the direct enterprise asking us to participate as well. So think your local bank or insurance company or road traffic authority or something, asking us to help them with their transformation of their self-service technologies, if you like, to a cloud equivalent. So we're lucky enough to being asked at the moment to help write the tenders and run the tenders and then implement the new designed architectures of a transformed contact center architecture. So we're lucky enough, for example, to have just finished deploying a speech self-service application into the Pizza Hut franchises in Australia. So, for example, now anytime you ring up a Pizza Hut and ask for your pizza, it'll actually be a broad-sourced written self-service application that you can navigate via speech recognition to order your pizza and have it home delivered to your home address. So quite a sophisticated speech interaction that comes from our expertise in designing self-service applications, which are now residing in the cloud as a cloud contact center delivered by people like Telstra, for example. So we're really proud of the fact that now, 20 odd years of experience in telco is also meaning that our call center expertise is also coming to fruition through things like application development and redesign of a bank or an insurance company's self-service ambitions in these new architectures as well.
And I also understand you also have some operational capacity you offer to partner companies.
Yeah, I think a natural progression of us designing and building cloud unified communications or cloud contact center architectures is then, once they are in production, to continue to participate on a daily basis. And what it's led to is, over the last 5 years of BroadSource, is the development of our global operations center. And that is a follow-the-sun, 24/7 global network of engineers and technologies that are literally monitoring the health and performance of all of these cloud unified communications servers that some of our customers have chosen to ask us to operate on their behalf, because we ultimately get to see things before they do. We've built some unique technology that allows us to interrogate and probe and monitor what is now in effect about 600 servers around the world that are heartbeating back to our global operations center. And to be honest, the value proposition for our customers there is that we've probably seen the fault before somewhere else. We've probably patched that issue somewhere else in some other part of the world. And really it's about expediting outcomes as quickly as possible with the best skills in cloud unified communications coming from our team that they may well not be able to, from an operational perspective at least anyway, be able to attract or retain. And that's been a viable proposition for our service providers in even tier 3 environments of Papua New Guinea or Fiji or Vanuatu, all the way up to tier 1 service providers in the UK who are operating platforms across Hong Kong and the US and Europe, and we're lucky enough to be actually looking after those platforms on their behalf on an operational perspective.
So, you guys recently decided to join the Cloud Communications Alliance, the CCA. Why the CCA?
Yeah, good question. I think for us, the CCA represents an opportunity for myself and the rest of my team to listen and learn and to be influenced. We have a great opportunity to work with customers, but we think we need other influences as well. And we think the CCA represents that. We think it's an environment where topics are discussed that you don't normally get to see. It's an environment where some of our partners we get to collaborate with. But just as interesting, it's an environment where some of our customers already participate and are active in searching out their futures as well. And we would like to listen to that because we want to be on target. We want to be on message with those things that are important to them. And often normal cut and thrust of normal business life doesn't give you that opportunity, but the CCA represents that forum by which we can listen and learn and be influenced and react. And that's the most important dynamic for me. I think it's an opportunity for me to bring back that knowledge back to our product development team and back to our professional services teams and give them some insights into what really matters. Because I think the CCA is a forum by which people communicate at a certain level, a certain openness and a certain ambition and energy levels that the CCA represents, bringing all that together in one place consistently throughout the year. And that's what we're really excited to be able to participate in. And clearly we hope that through that we get to build stronger relationships with our customers who are already in the CCA and our peers who are participants in the CCA, and just listen and learn is probably the key thing for us, and to make sure that we are doing the right things for the ecosystem.
Now, what would be the one thing you want all the CCA members to know about your company?
I think time and longevity in this industry is really important, particularly in interesting times of consolidation, technology consolidation, service provider consolidation, and to be a part of the ecosystem for coming up to a number of decades now, having seen the cycles before, you get an insight and intuition about how to react to these changing environments, this changing world. And I think the CCA and that membership would love to let them know that we come with those cycles under our belt, that experience of seeing things before. We have not just come up with an idea over the last little while and are trying to bring that to market. This is many, many years of thinking, seeing real problems from real people in real environments, and seeing if that can help the CCA and those members who are trying to continue to define their futures and which directions to take. And so we think experience is the key thing. Experience and knowledge, and have been there before, and happy to share the war wounds. At least from our perspective, we're an independent participant in this ecosystem. We have specializations in multiple technologies. We've had people that sit as customers that are now part of my business, and vice versa. So, I think we'd like that roundedness, that yep, we've seen this probably before, and just here's our perspective on it for whatever it may be worth in the conversation with the CCA.
So Haydn, thank you for spending some time today with me, and again, congratulations on becoming a member of the Cloud Communications Alliance. Where can we learn more about BroadSource?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. I really appreciate your time today, and it was great to talk to the audience. And we're very excited to join the CCA and get into the thicket over the coming months and years. From our perspective, the best place to at least come and see a little bit about us and to understand a little bit about our history is to visit our website. It's broadsource.com.au. That's broadsource.com.au. And please don't hesitate to leave a message. It'll come through to the team, and we'll get on with the conversation about how we can help you simplify your lives, speed up your activities, and make your customers a lot happier in cloud unified communications. So thanks, Doug.
Well, again, thank you. And I know we're going to be talking to you soon. I'll look forward to doing our next podcast on some interesting topics.
You're welcome. Thank you.